today we have another distinguished guest from another continent, Ron Iarussi. Welcome to Finland. Ron
Thank you.
is Kiri's dad.
I am. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my second trip over here. You know, I had a chance to come last March and meet the team and kind of get acclimated to the area a little bit. But we were just in camp, so we didn't really have that opportunity, to experience game week and all that Seinäjoki has to offer. So it's a pleasure.
Well,
to
the
be
weather is not treating you too well.
Well, you know what? I've been in Florida for the last 6 months, and we've had, I think it's now 75 days in the 90s. So this is kind of a refreshing break from some of that. So
let's start with a little background stuff. I've understood that you come from Ohio, which is a hotbed for football in the U.S.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, growing up in the Midwest, in a little town called Struthers, Ohio, just outside of Youngstown, but really close to the PA-Pennsylvania border. Grew up in a steel town. Steel manufacturing. Steel was the economic way to go in the town, and so with that comes a lot of hard-nosed, blue-collar type families and kids. So that tough football atmosphere kind of was inbred into us as kids growing up, and so football was a very important part of my life growing up, and being part of a team that never in 3 years didn't lose one league game,
Nice.
And so to have that experience as far as with a family that you go to battle with every day, you come to have a real passion for the sport.
So who do you root for?
Well, I'm not a big professional football fan. I watch pro football, but I grew up Catholic, and so I guess I really didn't have much choice but to follow Notre Dame. And so
That's a very good choice.
I've been, both of my children are Notre Dame fans. My wife's kind of a Michigan fan, but we forgive her for that. Yeah. So, I've grown up watching the Irish play, and pretty excited about this season coming up too.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the first game, but that was just a blowout. So,
Well, I like what I see so far.
yeah. I mean, there's so many traditions, so many myths, so many stories about Notre Dame,
Sure.
the Four Horsemen, and all that. So, I mean, it's kind of intriguing in many ways.
I agree.
There's a couple of big NFL teams in Ohio. There's also a bunch of great colleges.
Great.
Which one would you?
Well, I went to Youngstown State University, which is a small college, just in northeastern Ohio. But during my time there, Jim Tressel was the head coach at Youngstown State University, who went on to Ohio State and coached them to a national championship, and ironically went back to Youngstown State and became the university president there.
Okay.
So, as part of my role as an educator in that area, got a chance to work very closely with President Tressel at that point in time. So, there's a lot of great college football in Ohio too. The MAC conference is really represented well. So you have Akron and Kent and Bowling Green and Miami of Ohio, which is where Kerry went to school.
Yeah.
A lot of great football all through high school. Cleveland St. Edwards is up in northeast Ohio. I think they're ranked number 2 in the country right now in high school football as well. So from high school, college to pro, football's king in Ohio.
You worked decades in school administration. You've also coached a lot.
I have. I started coaching high school football the year after I graduated from high school. So, I had an opportunity to go play in college, but my home situation, I felt like I needed to stay there with my mom and help her out. She had some health issues. So my high school football coach came to me and asked me if I would, help out. And I started out at the freshman, 9th grade level, and very soon after that, I started coaching varsity football. So, this is probably year, I don't know, it's getting close to 40 years that I've coached football. So, one of the things I'm most proud of and most that I most enjoyed was the opportunity to coach both of my children, both Kerry and AJ.
That was what I was going to ask next.
In football, and so the best year of my life in football was the year, Kerry was back in the States, and his little brother AJ was a junior in high school, and so Kerry helped us out too. So Kerry and I and AJ were both on the same team, and we happened to win the championship in the league championship and go to the state playoffs that year. So quite a memorable year for us.
What kind of a player Kerry was?
Kerry was just a smart, strong, tough player. He's very smart and knows the game very well. So he played offensive line for us and was quite a technician. So he could, and he was dedicated in the weight room as well. So he was a 300-pound dead power clean guy. Just worked his butt off both in the weight room and on the field. So, but just a hard-nosed technician. Played mostly offense, but when we needed him, he played defense too.
He doesn't look like an offensive.
Not anymore, but no. Both of my children are. I was an offensive line coach, and they were both offensive linemen too. So.
You also switched Ohio to Florida. How does that treating you?
Well, that was always a dream of mine. I got a little bit tired of the cold weather up in Northeast Ohio, and so
no kidding.
Yeah, and so I went down to Florida. My wife and I both retired really from education, but I went back to work, and she still does some substitute teaching there. But we love Florida. It's especially the winters in Florida where it's 85 degrees every day.
What's not to love?
Exactly.
You've also followed Kerry's career as a coach. What kind of a coach is he?
That's a good question. He's got a mixture of a little bit. So his mom's was a basketball coach too, and so he's got a mixture of a little bit of us. But I think he is just a tireless worker when it comes to watching film and preparation, and in the off season. All of my coaching network and my friends, like one of my best friends was our high school football coach, who ended up being a defensive coach for the Miami Dolphins. And nice. So, I had another really good friend of mine who was a head football coach in Division III. So we have a network of coaches and Kerry he's the first one. He will pick your brain about every little detail and aspect about football that he possibly can. So that number one, he's a strategist, but and then on the field, he doesn't settle for anything less than people's best, as you heard last night at practice. He gets a little excited sometimes, but that's a little bit of me coming out of him, I think. And especially when you're an offensive line coach, those guys only understand one language.
Kerry worked several years in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first initial reaction when he told you that, Dad, I'm going to Russia?
Wow, that's a good story. That kid, obviously he was very smart. He was at the top of his class in high school, but he attended university while he was in high school too. So he had both high school credits and university credits. And he, got to know one of his college professors who was a history major who came from Russia. And Kerry really developed a really good relationship. And Kerry's a guy that he wants to know if you know something about something specific, he'll pick your brain, until you tell him everything. And he was just intrigued, by the story of Russia and the history there. And I think his professor, said, hey, there's probably going to be some opportunities as Russia, modernizes and becomes now, this was obviously before last year. So yeah, we supported him. When he went to Miami of Ohio, he graduated with a degree in Russian studies and speaks fluent Russian. But he went there several times while he was in college, and so we kind of got used to and acclimated to him being there. Pam and I never got a chance to go there, but he, really enjoyed his time there. He loves being in Europe here too. So I think he's very happy here. But we were obviously had some concern, especially a year and a half ago. We were really concerned. But he's handled it really well, and he got a lot of great coaching experience while he was there too. Just having that last year he was there, he ended up being the head coach of the Spartans before he left too. So I think it's been a great experience for him, and with technology these days, we've been able to communicate on a
Yeah.
regular basis, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Actually, Crocodiles have played twice in Moscow in
Oh,
the Euro Bowl.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. All right.
Been there
I didn't know
once
that.
myself. Yeah. So you visited Seinäjoki now. This is your second visit here. Kind of small town.
Yeah.
Um,
Reminds me of our town. Carrie and I were talking about that. It was, kind of a small town suburb, really, of bigger
yeah.
towns. So, yeah.
We're like the smallest town in the Maple League.
Yeah.
So it's kind of peculiar that we've been up there for 30 years now and,
Yeah.
and never gone down. So how would you compare the football here to football in the United States? Obviously,
Right.
we cannot talk about Maple League and college football in the same sentence.
Right.
But anyhow, how would you describe it?
I really didn't know what to expect when I came last time. As far as I watched a lot of film on the teams, but watching film and being there in person is a whole different thing. But I was pleasantly surprised at the level of talent that is here. This offensive line that they have here and defensive line both. As far as players I've been coaching and been able to work with are at par with that level. One of the stops I made in high school football was at a place called Warren Harding, which was nationally ranked at some point too. But we had players that went to Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State, and it was a heavily recruited high school. And so there's a lot of talent on this team that I compare to that team that played. So I think the Finnish players are developing. I mean, look at Yanni Sarkala and what he did last week, and those kinds of things. And Mackinnon up front is about as good as any center that I've seen in a while. And so he reminds me a lot of my younger son, by the way. He's just tough, hard-nosed, tries to finish every block. So I'm pleasantly surprised and impressed with the level of football.
You obviously watched the games from Crocodiles. Now we're playing Vasa Royals.
Yeah.
You've probably seen both games. So something we should be worried about on Saturday's game.
They're a well-coached team and they've got talent. My wife and I were talking last night after practice because she's checking in. She's about as passionate as anybody when it comes to that and really wants to win this game pretty bad. So she wants to know every detail of how the preparation's going. And I said, I think watching them on film, they have enough talent to beat you. And that's key. I think overall, we have a more balanced team, and so it's kind of scary when you think about that some players that they have they're capable of scoring, they're capable of playing some good defense and creating turnovers. So this is a game I think that we need to make sure we take care of ourselves. We need to, if we play our game and we don't turn the ball over and we make we get 4 yards on first down, we're going to be very hard to beat Saturday.
We left total of 5 seconds in the clock the last time we played them.
Plenty of time.
Yeah. You tell me about it. Oh, let's jump back to
Okay.
your family
Yeah.
background. How did you manage to find a wife from our local town?
How about that? Yeah, right. And honestly, I'm Italian, and so we're pretty passionate about some of the food we make and all those kinds of things. And so when I met Pam, and of course she was told me she was from Finnish, and I'm like, well, my first concern was, well, what do you eat? What kind of food are we gonna have? So
A lot?
Yeah. So no, she's I know that her and her sister Candy were very excited to come here, and it's kind of neat when you can really just visit a place where your roots are from and their grandparents were here. And so that's really neat for her to be able to experience that.
What have you learned of Finland, Seinäjoki, and the Crocodiles during your two trips?
I just in 2 trips here, and of course last night was the first night that I've been here at practice, but I just really enjoy the players. The way, I feel like there's already a bond. They've welcomed me, I was talking to the Sarkolas last night, who were just, came right up to me as soon as I saw them because I'd spent some time with them when I was back here in March. And all the players I feel like are just very welcoming, got a great spirit about them. And I think that's part of the reason that they're successful is there's a lot of good people that are on that team. So I'm impressed with and I've been welcomed here, with open arms since I've been here. So I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming here.
Yeah, no,
Let's have some breakfast.
Yeah,
And let's
hey,
good result.
I didn't come all this way to not kick some royal ass. So that's what we'll be doing this
I like
Saturday. All right.
Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome.